Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and we need to talk about the Hulk in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Mark Ruffalo is confirmed to join the cast of this 2026 fourth Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, along with John Bernthal, Frank Castle Punisher, Michael Mando, Matt Gargan Scorpion, Sadie Sink in an unknown role, and a number of others. And while we've talked about Hulk in the abstract and why the Punisher might hate his guts, there's another element to the Hulk in this Spider-Man movie that could explain why he's the perfect MCU character to team Peter Parker up with. So let's explain, does Hulk remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? From the earliest days that the Hulk was even rumored to appear in this movie, the speculation went that the Hulk would not be the smart Hulk form from Avengers Endgame and She-Hulk, but rather the classic Savage Hulk from The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and that What If episode where he popped. And just in the past week, rumors from toy reviewer outlets about the upcoming releases from Hasbro's Marvel Legends series in 2026 have indicated that the Hulk in that lineup might be a Savage Hulk version of the character. The Marvel Legends series tends to be versions of the characters we see in the Marvel Studios films and streaming series. This is not confirmed, but it is what many of us are expecting to see in Brand New Day. The smart Hulk form that we've gotten to know was a product of Bruce Banner's experiments during the blip period, as he explained in Avengers Endgame.
18 months in the gamma lab. I put the brains and the brawn together. And now look at me. Best of both worlds.
The best? This guy couldn't handle getting thunderclapped by his cousin and made us all hang out with his stupid son with the terrible haircut. The She-Hulk series did show us that gamma lab that Bruce referred to, part of a Mexican beach house with a great bar, where Bruce and Tony spent some time talking about whether Steve Rogers was a virgin.
This is where I spent the blip fixing myself and integrating the Hulk Banner identities. Tony built it for me a few years ago. Tony Stark. He used to joke that it was a loaner, that one day he'd just swing by and take it back.
But since movies like Ragnarok and Infinity War suggested that the Bruce Banner identity and the Hulk identity were two different consciousnesses with separated memories, ever since Banner achieved this new smart Hulk form in the first 18 months of the blip, we've all been wondering, then what happened to that other Savage Hulk personality? Is he dormant and sleeping? Is he constantly screaming in the back of Bruce's mind like an imprisoned passenger in a Black Mirror episode? Was he banished to some other kind of realm of metaphysical existence? And for the purposes of Spider-Man Brand New Day, does that Savage Hulk, if he still exists somewhere, remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man after the memory wipe spell that ended Spider-Man No Way Home? The runes of Kof Kal. Is a submerged gamma-irradiated consciousness immune to that kind of magic? It's a complicated question. Well, Peter Parker being an anonymous hero and a stranger to his past loved ones will continue to be an important plot detail in Brand New Day, as Kevin Feige confirmed in a press roundtable in July 18th. He said, "I think there's a promise at the end of No Way Home that, for as sad as it is, that Peter is forgotten by everyone in his life." So how does that memory spell work for Hulk? Well, 3.5 years ago, shortly after Spider-Man No Way Home released, I made this very thorough video that explained the logic of Doctor Strange's memory wipe spell to the best of my ability. Based on what the screenwriters had established and other clues in the final minutes of No Way Home, what I came up with were the 4 rules for how the memory wipe spell works. 1. Everyone still alive who knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man no longer remembers. 2. Everyone still alive who had any relationship whatsoever to Peter Parker now views him as a stranger. 3. Reality itself has been rewritten to alter all physical records of Peter Parker into a new replacement history. And 4. Spider-Man still exists in the historical record, but he was never unmasked. So the basic premise is that everyone in the MCU still remembers Spider-Man and everything that the superhero vigilante Spider-Man did, both on his own and with the Avengers, but they all kind of have a facial blindness and foggy memory as to who the kid is under the mask. They don't remember the second part of Mysterio's message at the end of Far From Home that revealed Spider-Man's identity. And any digital or physical evidence pertaining to Peter Parker publicly identified as Spider-Man, or any records of Peter Parker at all 2024 or earlier in the MCU, were erased from existence. The screenwriters of Spider-Man No Way Home, who returned to write the script for Spider-Man Brand New Day, explained the memory wipe spell logic as they saw it to Variety at the time. Eric Summers and Chris McKenna said they talked at length about the implications of the spell and how to address it in No Way Home. Here's what the Variety article said. "We were like, do we do a Back to the Future kind of thing where you see him fading out of photos?" Summers says, "Does he still have a driver's license or a passport?" It just led to more questions. So they punted. "We decided, let's try to do it in the most satisfying way and just focus on the emotion of it," Summers says. "And then if people have questions about some of those details that didn't get answered here, we'll answer them hopefully in another movie somewhere down the line. Obviously, some sort of magical redaction has occurred," McKenna adds. "At the end of all this, we didn't want a lot of people trying to do magical math in their head." Amy Pascal Pascal suggested looking to the 1978 Warren Beatty comedy Heaven Can Wait for a solution. People had these experiences, but they start forgetting the person they knew, but they were still affected by the events that happened, McKenna explained. Magical redaction and answer them hopefully in another movie somewhere down the line? Well, now with this fourth movie, it seems like they're making good on that promise.
Summer nights used to be the worst. I'd lay awake covered in a thin layer of sweat no matter what the AC was doing because I had the wrong sheets. I'm smarter now, better now. Now I keep cool all night thanks to Miracle Made sheets. Miracle Made's fabric was inspired by NASA, so it's thermoregulating. That means you'll sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. And these sheets are crazy comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. Plus, Miracle Made sheets are infused with silver that prevents bacterial growth. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne, so sleeping on Miracle Made sheets is good for your skin too. Upgrade your sleep as the weather heats up. Go to trymiracle.com/newrockstars to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo New Rockstars at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/newrockstars and use the code NEWROCKSTARS to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/newrockstars to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring today's video.
But we should say that when it comes to Bruce Banner, he doesn't have too many memories of Peter Parker to begin with. Spider-Man didn't join the Avengers until the events of Civil War, when Bruce, trapped in his Savage Hulk form, was off-world on the planet Sakaar, becoming the gladiator champion we saw in Thor Ragnarok. When he returned to Earth in Avengers Infinity War, he only had a short amount of time with Tony Stark and Doctor Strange and Wong to get caught up on anything before Thanos' Q-ship arrived and Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian started to attack. Spider-Man did help Tony Stark and Doctor Strange during this scene, but at no point does Bruce Banner or his very shy Savage Hulk form at this point ever interact with Peter, or even hear Tony call him Peter or see him with his mask off. A tree collapses on Bruce pretty early on, and he fights with his Hulk identity that covers half his face and then faints. And then, after he faints, Cull Obsidian attacks Iron Man, and that's when Spider-Man now appears at the last second to block the attack. From there, Peter fights Cull Obsidian and then swings over to help Doctor Strange, who's being abducted by Ebony Maw, and then Peter Parker gets towed up to the Q-ship, where he joins Strange and Tony in space, goes to Titan, and dusts there, and doesn't return to existence at all until the Battle of Earth, at which point Bruce has converted to Smart Hulk for all the moments they shared during the battle and at Tony Stark's funeral, and likely Smart Hulk would have been affected by Doctor Strange's spell. But there was one line at Avengers Infinity War that might be a clue to whether Savage Hulk ever knew the name Peter Parker. In the middle of the movie, when Bruce is with the others at Avengers compound, Natasha explains where Scott and Clint are after Civil War.
After the whole Accord situation, he and Scott took a deal. It was too tough on their families. They're on house arrest.
Who's Scott?
Ant-Man.
There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
Aha! So this implies that at some point off screen in this movie, the other Avengers were hanging out with Bruce on the compound and briefed Bruce on the new allies that had joined them, including Spider-Man. And Bruce probably got the lowdown on this kid. And while it wasn't initially clear how many of the Avengers knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man after Civil War, we know the Avengers archives kept Peter's face on file because his face was listed among the dusted in the opening act of Avengers Endgame. Now, yes, in those Endgame opening scenes, Bruce Banner was not yet Smart Hulk, but Savage Hulk had stayed buried at that point because remember, Banner only was active during these opening minutes while he was in the Hulkbuster armor. So the question then becomes, did at some point Bruce get into another argument with Savage Hulk during those off-screen Infinity War moments at the compound where Savage Hulk could have popped back up and seen that dopey headshot of Peter Parker on a holo screen? And would Savage Hulk have cared enough to have clocked that information and stored it after all these years of dormancy? Would Eric Summers and Chris McKenna have bothered tracking all of this stuff to feel confident enough writing this into their screenplay for the fourth film? Is anyone at Marvel Studios tracking the continuity with this level of obsession to feel confident enough to advise them to put it in there? I don't know. But when it comes to the magical redaction Summers and McKenna referred to for Doctor Strange's memory wipe, it's not clear if that magic would affect submerged, dormant alter egos born out of gamma radiation. But if Bruce could have buried Savage Hulk deep enough to stop that monster from ever coming out and regaining control, and if Ragnarok and Infinity War were specific that both of those forms have completely separate memories.
Do I know you? I feel like I've known you.
I feel like I know you too. It's weird.
And if you've looked into these subjects of metaphysics and what the soul is, memory is a very, very big part of it. There is here at least a convenient enough explanation to say that Savage Hulk was unaffected by the memory-based element of the Runes of Kafkal spell. But the reality he might come back to and smash through would still be one with no physical evidence of Peter Parker's existence before 2024. And if he does remember Peter and no one else remembers Peter, I suppose that's something that would make him even angrier. Alternatively, if the the logic were to be established that for Bruce to bury Savage Hulk that deep enough in his psyche that Savage Hulk could have slipped into, say, another realm of existence, like the Void, which could either be the shadowy void of Thunderbolts that has a specific effect over our darker sides, something that they could even describe as the Dark Force that Martin Lee, Mr. Negative, could tap into, or even the void of the TVA dumping ground, because that is where pruned and forgotten histories tend to go. This is one way they could establish where Savage Hulk has been. That way, we could see how Doctor Strange's spell only went as far as the 616 universe, and that any character outside of that universe, or in any outside realm of existence from that universe at the time of the spell, who previously knew that Peter was Spider-Man, might still know that he is Spider-Man. Now, one additional thing that Spider-Man Brand New Day could do to establish this link between Savage Hulk and Peter Parker would be to finally answer how Peter Parker got his powers. What spider bit him, especially if No Way Home suggested that no Oscorp exists in the 616 universe.
Someone's living in my house. Oscorp doesn't exist.
Well, there's actually another January 2022 video that touched on this on New Rockstars. The theory I have long believed is that since the MCU Peter Parker got his powers, quote, 6 months before the events of Civil War, that would mean that Peter would have had to have run into some spider in the New York area in 2015, which would have been shortly after the Avengers left Avengers Tower and moved upstate to the compound. Why is this important? Well, I've also theorized that Banner and Tony must have had some kind of Gamma Lab 1.0 in the tower where they had that workshop in Avengers Age of Ultron, because during that time, they were working a lot on helping Banner stabilize his Hulk powers. That's why Tony had Veronica and the Hulkbuster armor. So when the Avengers moved out, maybe Peter Parker, being the Iron Man nerd he always was, snooped around the tower and got bitten by a spider that happened to be gamma-irradiated from that Gamma Lab. That could be how Tony Stark even knew to find this kid leading up to Civil War, how he knew who this kid in the YouTube videos was. The bite could have happened on Tony's property from a lab that Bruce Banner helped build. So if that's the case, and if we learn that Bruce Banner made that connection at any point in the past, maybe in the 18 months after Tony died, but before he became Smart Hulk, then yeah, Savage Hulk might be the one soul in the 616 universe who still remembers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So does Savage Hulk remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? It's possible. And does Savage Hulk remember 9/11? Probably not, because like many of the people who yell at me on the internet, he wasn't alive yet when it happened. I think I explained this to the best of my ability, but comment down below with your thoughts. And a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Jeremy Dunham, who supports us at the executive producer level. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all the channels of the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.